Hi guys, hello again, and do you notice anything different? Anything, nothing, no, anything? Please say you do. If you're new, and in which case you wouldn't know, and I hope Teddy just walking into my tripod didn't shake it too much. But I cut my hair. I got my hair done, I cut it. It's summer, it is so stinking hot. It's actually really hot right now. And Teddy's being clingy. But I cut my hair. So, yeah, let me know what you think. Anyways, so today I wanted to talk about fake accessibility. This was an idea that was suggested by a friend, and I thought it was interesting, and so I thought I would talk about it today. And by fake accessibility, I mean things that have been made or adjustments that have been made to make a certain thing accessible. However, they just didn't put in enough thought, they didn't put in enough effort, and so they're really just doing it on a superficial level. So it only looks accessible so that it ticks the box of we made our things accessible for the visually impaired, but in reality it's not. So for this video, the examples that I've thought of are very VI centered. They're very like visually impaired, blind people centered. I won't be talking about just disability in general because that's not my expertise. I'm not disabled in every way possible. I'm only visually impaired. That's my only disability, well, at least physical. And so that's what I will be talking about today. So I've got about five. I've got five, and some of them are really just head scratchers. Like I just don't know what was going through the minds of the people who were designing these things. And then some of them are just flat out just what went wrong? Like why? It will be pretty obvious, the ones that like actually genuinely piss me off, and then the ones that are just real head scratchers. And yeah. So now that I've got all of that done and out of the way, let's get into the actual meat of this video. Number one is covering up Braille on elevators. I'm pretty sure at this point everyone will know that if you go on an elevator and you look at the buttons, you'll have like those little Braille dots on every single button to be like, this is number one, this is 2, 3, 4, etc., etc. And I don't know if this whole covering up thing is simply a Korean thing or if it's like a just everywhere thing. I don't know, but what's the point of covering up the buttons with like this really thick like plastic covering so that the Braille becomes impossible to read? Like what? Like what is the whole point? Like visually, yeah, you can see the Braille. I can see the Braille. I don't read Braille, but I can definitely see the Braille and I know what Braille is for. But why would you cover it up? It blows my mind why people would cover it up. Nowadays during the pandemic, I guess it kind of makes sense because a lot of the times here in Korea they have this like antibacterial film thing to cover up the buttons, which is it's not the best. I will say it's not the best, but I mean with that I kind of understand it. But before the pandemic there were a lot of places that would still like cover up their buttons, and it's just like, why? Like this is a real head scratcher. Like why would you do something like that? Like they would literally, it's like button, Braille, cover. Like, and not just like really thin, like flimsy kind of plastic so that you can actually read the Braille with your fingers, but I'm talking like really thick plastic. And the thing is, they're not even that like transparent. They're like kind of foggy and hazy. So they're kind of like, they're closer to translucent than they are transparent, which means that someone like me who's just like, you know, low vision, it becomes even harder to see the buttons that I can already see. So this one's a real head scratcher. It's literally just to be like, yeah, we followed government regulations. We've got Braille on our elevators. We're accessible. Yeah, we're good. But in reality, it's not accessible at all. That elevator is now inaccessible. Number two is also a head scratcher because it's when you see those like dots on the floor. I don't know what they're called, but what? Okay. Teddy's being a bit clingy. But when you see those like dots on the floor at the top and at the bottom of any flight of stairs, those dots are there to indicate that there is a change of levels, there's stairs coming up, something, something to look out for, right? That's what those dots are for. They're for the visually impaired, so that there's like a tactile marker to say there's something coming up, watch out, be careful. However, it's really annoying, well, not so much annoying, but really mind-boggling and just kind of baffling when these people decide to only put these dots at the top or at the bottom of a certain flight of stairs. Like, why? Like, if you're gonna do both, like, do both. Or if you're gonna do none. Like, have some consistency. Like, what is the point of having one but not the other? Like, this is actually a thing that they have in my apartment building, where there's this, it's only 4 steps, so it's not, I don't even really consider it a flight of stairs, but they only have those dots at the top. Like, why would you only have it at the top of the stairs? Like, for me, as someone who struggles going downstairs more than I do going up, like, it's helpful, but it's also like, what was your thinking for only doing the top and not the bottom? There's also a lot of places that also do this as well. Like, I've come across quite a few places where they only do the top or the bottom. It's strange. It's very strange. It's like, again, it's just like being like, yeah, we have the dots to indicate that there are stairs. It will help the visually impaired or the blind community, but then it's also like, we're gonna come on to the last step and expect another one and then realize there isn't, and that's just gonna hurt our joints, and it's not nice. I've been there, it's not fun. Number 3. So this one I do find kind of annoying. And it's that when you're walking on the road, or when you're walking like in a mall or something somewhere, and you see those like dots, again, like these are all very much like dot related, like floor dot related stuff, but when you see those and they're not like the stairs, like change of level indicators, but just like a path to follow if you're visually impaired and you're trying to get somewhere, it's like a path. It's kind of annoying when the floor around these paths, so like the tiles around these paths, are like white, and then they decided to make these dots also white. Like, I'm pretty sure that you're supposed to have a bit of contrast so that it stands out a bit, because blindness is a spectrum, right? Obvious. I'm sure like you kind of picked up on that at this point, because I can still see, but I'm still considered like visually impaired, low vision, somewhat in the blind community, right? Even though I don't necessarily identify as blind. So blindness is a spectrum. There are a lot of people, like the vast majority of people in the blind community still see something, right? So by making a stark contrast in terms of color makes it a lot easier to find these things. And it's very like annoying when I'm walking around and the floor and these dots are a very similar color to the point where they just blend in. Like, I don't even think like painting over those dots at that point is hard. Surely it's not difficult, right? But for some reason they're very similar in terms of color. Like, why? Like, this one genuinely kind of annoys me, because sometimes I do rely on those. Not a lot, but I do rely on them when I am lost, when I'm scared, I'm in a new place and I don't know if there are going to be pillars or something and there's going to be stuff that I'm going to walk into. I follow those sometimes because I don't want to get hurt. But when I'm looking for those things and I can't see them because they blend in with the floor, that makes me anxious. I get scared when that happens. And so why could you not invest a little bit more time and make sure that there's enough of a color contrast between the floor tiles or whatever material you're making your floor and the actual dots on the floor? Is it that hard? Is it that hard to change the color? Like, I don't know. This genuinely like annoys me, and it's also just mind-boggling how little effort sometimes people put into making things accessible. Like, why would you not do that one extra little step? It's not even the hardest thing. Why? Number 4 is in that similar kind of category of contrast. And this is something that really just, yeah, this actually genuinely pisses me off. And again, this is about stairs, and it's kind of related with contrast. A lot of the things that I've noticed are about stairs, and I think that's probably because I struggle the most with stairs. So these things really pop out to me, but I'm sure there are more, but these are just the ones that I've noticed and experienced. So, stairs. This is something that our school, like my school campus, has done as well. Like, there's this really new building. It's the newest building. Those of you who know will know. But that building, their stairs are ridiculous. Like, it's so annoying. It's so difficult to go down their stairs because, I mean, the whole building itself is just too hard for me. But their stairs are the worst because a lot of stairs, if they're trying to be accessible and if they succeed at being accessible, they have these like strips of color, of contrasting color at the end of each individual step, right? So let's say the step itself is white, right? Then the strip of color might be like black or like dark gray or like some kind of contrasting color. And this particular building, their floor tiles, I believe, is like a beigey kind of pale white color. I'm not good at color, so I mean, like, that's my best guess, but it's like a beigey kind of color. And for me, if the steps are all one color, it becomes incredibly difficult to see them, right? And so when I'm going downstairs, I really rely on these end of step indicators. I don't know what they're called, but that's what I call them, end of step indicators. And I really rely on them because that's the only visual cue that I have to know where like each individual step ends. That's the only cue I get, other than like maybe a shadow, which is like indoors, that's hard to get. Outdoors, sure, if it's sunny, there's a good chance that I will get a shadow if I'm going down in the right direction. However, indoors, it's almost impossible. I don't think I've ever had a shadow when I was indoors. So for me, indoor stairs, I think, is absolutely crucial to think about accessibility. That's my personal opinion. Fight me on this, but that's my personal opinion, right? But this particular building, the way they designed it is they put 2 very thin lines, very thin dark lines that are basically impossible to see because there's also like little black flecks on the floor tiling as well. How do you expect me to see 2 thin lines when it's interrupted by the actual like tile separate, like the tile lines that actually separate each tile, but also these little individual black spots on the floor? It's just, it becomes really confusing, and sometimes I miss those step indicators, and I realize a little too late that there was actually a step there. Like, why could you not just put in, like, if you're already gonna put black into your stairs and into your color scheme, or like a darker color, like their color scheme seems to be like white, beige, and red, because red's like our school color, right? So why couldn't they have added in like a red strip at the end of each step instead of two very thin lines? Why? I don't get it. It genuinely pisses me off. I don't like going into that building. It's too hard for me. It's too hard in so many ways, but those stairs are just the worst. They're atrocious. And the thing is, a lot of places are like this. And like see, the thing is, if stairs don't even have those indicators, at least I can just be like, yeah, they just didn't even try, like, whatever, like, this is a thing that I can just, like, let people know about it. But in this case, it's like, oh, but we made it more accessible. It's like, no, you didn't put in enough thought. You didn't put in enough effort. You obviously didn't ask someone who was actually visually impaired to be like, is this enough for you? Like, at this point, it's just a design element. Like, it's not good enough. Like, that's just not good enough, and it genuinely pisses me off whenever I see those stairs. So now that I'm actually getting kind of annoyed, I'm gonna move on. So number 5, it's the final one, and this is ridiculously bad audio descriptions. For those of you who don't know what audio descriptions are, they're basically someone tells you, narrates basically what's happening on screen. So a lot of Netflix shows have this, all of the Netflix originals have this, quite a few of non-Netflix originals also have them as well, but if you really want to be certain, just click on any Netflix original and just go to their, like, you know, there's like that audio and subtitles section at the bottom of your screen, like on the bottom right hand section. There will be an audio description option for the audio. And basically what happens is some person just narrates to you what's happening on screen. So for example, if the scene is this girl, she walks over to her dresser and she pulls it open and she pulls out a shirt, let's say. Then literally what the audio description is going to say is, the girl walks over to her dresser and opens the top drawer and takes out a green shirt. Let's say, for example, like that's literally what's going to happen. And then, yeah, it's literally just a narration. But there are good ones and there are bad ones. And then there are ridiculously bad ones that make absolutely no sense. Now, the thing is with audio description, not accessibility, Jesus, audio descriptions, they help a lot. To the point where nowadays I only look for shows that I can't speak today. To the point where I only look for shows that have audio descriptions. But whether a show has or doesn't have audio descriptions, that's a topic for another day, so we're not going to be talking about that. But what I am going to be talking about are the shows that have audio description, but it's so bad. Like, it's so bad. Like, I'm not even joking. There are shows, right, that will be like French subtitles and then not tell you what the subtitles say. What? Come on. Like, if you're gonna be like, oh yeah, there are French subtitles, read it out. I want to know what those French people are saying too. Like, why am I not getting the same information that sighted people are getting as well? Why? It makes no sense. Like, bad audio descriptions, they're just kind of annoying, but they're just bad. But they do all the things that are necessary. They don't necessarily tell you every little minute detail, but they tell you what matters. Ridiculously bad audio descriptions don't tell you the things that matter. Let me give you an example of what I mean by bad and then ridiculous. I'm sure you get an understanding of a ridiculous audio description sounds like or looks like, right? Let me give you an example of what bad audio description is. It's basically when the actual narrations are so few and far between that you're just kind of like, is my audio description even on? But when the things matter, they're there, right? That voice is there, that narrator is there, letting you know that something something important is happening. Ridiculous just leaves you out. They may tell you unnecessary things, they may tell you necessary things, but the important things, like the important necessary things, they might leave out. I don't know what's going on with these ridiculously bad audio descriptions. They're terrible. But I will say I do love audio descriptions. They really do save my life when it comes to watching media. And I have a video planned for that one. So if you want to learn more about Netflix shows and audio descriptions and my suggestions and things like that, just subscribe. You should subscribe down below because, you know, that's coming soon. I don't know exactly when, but it's on my calendar and I've got it planned. So yeah, you should subscribe. So those are the examples of the 5 fake accessibility examples that I could think of. I'm sure if you also look around in your environment and you see things, then you'll see them. You'll see how things are accessible, but only on the superficial level. They're only a visual, but in reality, they're not. They're not accessible in one way or another, but they're just not accessible. Either they've just completely been hindered, and the whole accessibility feature it's basically a waste, or they just didn't go far enough, or they didn't care. It's literally just for visual, aesthetics. So if you've seen any other examples of fake accessibility, leave me a comment down below. I'm genuinely curious to see what other places have done to say they're accessible, but in actual fact they're not. If you feel like you've learned anything, or you found this somewhat enjoyable, or you just liked seeing me getting mad, then leave me a like. That would be amazing. And also don't forget to subscribe down below, because I do have a full summer's worth of videos planned out. So yeah, if you want to see more of this face, then yeah, go ahead, subscribe. It's the big red button. I'm not going to tell you to press the notification bell, because I don't ever do that. But if you want to, then sure, go ahead, and I will see you guys next week. Bye!